Hey, in the last two videos, we have seen about a bit of vibe coding and then especially about the agents. We explained what is agents, what are the components of it. Okay. In this one, I wanted to explain what is cloud agents. There are a lot of jargons you'd have heard it, like cloud agents, sandboxes, cloud computer, managed cloud agents. These are all the jargons you would hear from different companies. Okay, all of these items are share a major of like a similar uh, technology architecture. So we're gonna see it and then why this thing has came into the world and what's the benefit of it and all those things. Okay, so let's first start what are I think we can start with something even the more basic things, right? Is like VM and then sandboxes. Okay, so these VMs are basically like before the AI came into the world, it's all normal virtual machines. You have it in the server where people like launch the applications, put their servers and blah blah blah. Yeah, I mean basically VM is a server, so they put their backend, all those stuffs. Okay, the reason why the sandboxes came into the world is especially on the vibe coding field. You wanted to give access of your code base to an agent to work it out, so you can test it, see which how it works and all those things. Okay, so depends upon the type of the applications, each VM has its own toolkits. Okay, so its own toolkits. But the first point is that it's like what is sandboxes comparing to the VM. The sandboxes, there are new like innovations happened. Especially there is something called, I mean I don't want to go technical. Okay, just assume sandboxes are a advanced version of VM, or we can say a limited version of VM where it throws out all the unwanted things. The server has it, they call it as a kernel, but let's not go even that too technical. So again, reframing, these sandboxes are sort of like a limited set of things where it can be smaller than a VM. It can be just because it doesn't has the unwanted thing. For example, imagine you have a house, that house doesn't has a room, it has only one door. It doesn't have like a two door, back door, side door from the terrace, nothing. So they remove all the possible of ways where the security can be breached, and then they created this thing called sandboxes. So and just because the sandboxes can be smaller and agent need an environment to work with, they they these sandboxes become more famous. And also just because it's a cloud agents or coding agents that can do drastic things. Yeah, they cannot come into your laptop. So even above this virtual machine, right, it's your laptop, it cannot come to your laptop and then just delete your files or copy some private data and then put it into like any like for example Cloud or Codex or like whichever the coding agents, it get like the data get uploaded, like this kind of security breaches. To avoid this, the sandboxes has been introduced. Okay, so the purpose is that, so if we need to like write down it, right, so it's like small, secure, um, small secure because it's remove unwanted thing, and then like they do a lot of like hardening of the security things, and then an environment for coding agents to work. It's not for coding agents. Sandbox has been sort of used mostly nowadays, mostly used for coding agents, but they are evolving into like multiple things which you will see later. So what is the benefits? The benefits, it's again the security, and it can be small. So for example, when I mean small means virtual machine, let's say you wanted to do like a 1 GB RAM or something, the sandboxes can be even run it. Correct me because I'm not a super expert on this, but what I know I'm explaining you. It can be even like 250 MB, or like for example Cloudflare and all, they even provide like you can do sandboxes even for a 125 MB as well. So for example, let's say you have a 16 GB of RAM in a bare metal server, you can split this into like this number of small sandboxes, and then you can give it to your coding agents and for other agents as well. Yeah, so that's the benefit, small, secure, and we can say there is a nice word they use, under a host you can have a crowded or some sort of like, you can say like a bunch, not say bunch is a very small words, like hundreds and hundreds of smaller uh, small sandboxes. Yeah, so this gives, these sandboxes give that ability to run that thing. Okay, so what are all the ways sandboxes can be used? For example, for people to build, I mean, before even the sandboxes, people use, I mean, cloud providers, they use something called worker, kind of like a VM to build applications. So when you push the code, so for example, when I like push the code here, it goes and build it, yeah, in all the vibe coding tools. That's the job of like a worker. So nowadays sandboxes are used for build as well. Second, for runtime. Runtime means, so imagine a coding agent, 10 coding agents are running different applications, and then you cannot issue a one VM for each of the thing, right? So you use sandboxes to show the live preview of this different thing. So for example, one agent is working on onboarding, another is working on a checkout page, so you want to see the preview. When it is a cloud agent, you need a runtime worker to show all the preview. If it's in your laptop, of course you will just go to your that link and then see it, right? But of course in your laptop also is mostly people just use a single PNPM dev to run that application. But there is another thing called parallel coding, but I don't want to confuse you. But yeah, so the first is build, and then second is for runtime purposes. So each coding agents, what they are working on, their preview, you can see it. And then third is called workspace VM. Workspace VM is, for example, nowadays lots of applications are coming up where they tell you, oh, connect your Gmail, connect your these things, we will take care of all this work for you in a cloud computer. Yeah, Perplexity also says that it's a cloud computer to do the research. The details of how the cloud computer, I mean the exact details may differ, but the fundamental architecture is that they use the sandboxes, because imagine 100,000 people, everybody wants a cloud computer, it means the bill can shoot up, right? So that's why they use these sandboxes, smaller one as per the need of the client. But of course, if the client wants more, I mean the bigger sizes, they can do that as well. Yeah, so they use it. And then there is a one more important point I forgot to mention, something called cold start. Cold start means when VMs are running, they are mostly like always on. There is something called burstable VM as well, but like mostly it's like it takes some time to, like more than a second or a few seconds to shut down and then switch on. Okay, but sandboxes can load in milliseconds. They call it as a sub-second. Yeah, so that's another main benefit of these sandboxes as well. Okay, so we can just put this here, benefits. Anyway, it's also all same. Okay, anyway, yeah, so and then another thing, I think workspace VM I already shared, is you use, we connect your applications and then your systems are like running there to do a lot of other works. And then another one is like some people, they use it as like a computer. They whatever the application is running, it's runs there. I mean, of course I'm not clearly like differentiating this and this, but the underlying factor is that you have your small computer there, it can cold start or when you're using, and then it can switch off when you are like when you are not using. And then another factors, especially for model developers, they use the same sandbox technology model. Instead of switching on, I mean all these things I explained it, right, is more about the CPU centric thing I have explained. But when people who develop model thing, they use GPU inferences. So let's say we say model inferences. So when they model inferences or model training also, people use these sandboxes. Because why they use sandboxes is, you don't need to pay, for example, Nvidia like this H2000 chips, I don't know what is the price, like a few thousand and all those things, like you need to borrow, invest money, right? They use these same technology, and and you can switch on, switch off whenever you need it, and it starts so fast, it's less than a second. Yeah, less than a second, so you can just use it when you need it, and when you don't want, you just switch off. And then the providers also, they charge based on the seconds you use or minute you use. not based on the total rental or something. That's how the pre-AI cloud were mostly like charged until this burstable and also some sort of this function compute. I mean, I don't want to go in technical to confuse you, but the thing is that the major purpose of the sandboxes is you provide your agent its own computer to run on it to do whether it's a coding work or computer work or model work, inference work or training work. And it's a model or inference, it's a GPU added into that to this sandbox. I mean, GPU hardwares are added into that sandboxes. Okay, so this is the whole story about what is cloud agents, sandboxes, and all those things. I wanted to show you. I mean, like for example, just now when I was showing here, this dev server, it's running on a sandbox. So for example, let's say, right, I take this project and then we go to our project viewer, which is 979195. You can see here, this is a sandbox and this is that deployment 116623, which is you can see here, and this is our internally built application that runs sandboxes for our own needs. And you can see what is the, I mean, we also attached some additional storage as well, so you see 2 GB. Of course here it's not showing what is the sizes of it. I wish I can show you in this UI, it doesn't there. But yeah, so this is how the thing is. Why it's another important point I mentioned about this. So a lot of providers who are providing the sandbox solution, yeah, so there is, when these providers are providing the thing, it's sort of called public cloud, where in their public cloud they provide you this sandbox creations and then you use it. There is something called private cloud. Okay, private cloud means it's like you have, there is a managed private cloud and then there is your own private cloud. Managed private cloud means instead of sharing the hardware resources with the other because here is everything is like shared, yeah. But here the private cloud, for example Google and other players, they provide their infrastructure, like basically the hardware, and they take care of all the server managements and all those things. They provide that server and you put whatever the stuff you want under that server which is reserved for you. Okay, that's called managed server. So you can, so this, why it's because you don't want it to manage your hardware. You do not want somebody's data. For example, recently and all, some agents were able to come out of the sandboxes and then they were able to penetrate to the other sandboxes. It's not proven, we don't know whether it's a gimmick or something, but proactiveness is always better than firefighting. So some, especially for banks and financials and healthcares, they like to have it especially first they want it into their own country, second they want to have it in their own provider which has like different compliances. And some companies, for example, especially like research and all those labs, they even want to have their own infra. Own infra means is in the own hardware, they have it in their own data center, in the co-location space and all those things. They have it, especially financial companies. In there, they can run this kind of like sandboxes application. So for example, for us and all, why we develop this into our private, I mean, we rented bare metal servers, but this purely runs on our server. It doesn't share into other servers. So this whole thing, so for example, right, so when I click deploy, it's get deployed into the server. When I let's just close this. When I say, can you tell me about my server configuration? I mean, behind this there is an agent, coding agent is running. Let's see if it can replies. Sometime it may ignore to reply. So it may, I mean, what I was trying to say, it's like it's in our server. A lot of sandboxes are running. So this is just one example I showed you, right? Where is it? So one example showed you, but there is like, if I can show, let's see if it has some data. So you can see here there is like this number of this is it says runtime, but it is like 233 runtime workers are running, and um, I don't want to show the data below, but there is like hundreds of sandboxes also is running. It's running on our server. It is managed through us. So for example, when somebody create a project, which that's the reason I had this, when somebody like put it into prompt and then it creates the sandboxes, once the sandbox created only, this whole thing will be available here. Okay, so the example I was showing here is, so here for example, you see here it says, no, I want my ha hardware configuration or something. So it goes to the server and then show you, and then my space, memory, etc. You should call this a storage. Sometime it may. So that is the one thing is going on. So it doesn't allow me to reply. So okay. So there is an issue. This was an issue I was just like solving. So you can see here, there is like something trying to reach the workspace VM, and then it got broken as well. Yeah, so because it is directly connected to a sandbox and then it replies. Let's try the same thing here. Tell me my server, storage, and RAM now. I'm not sure whether maybe this command is get ignored. I mean, like the user is not supposed to ask. Maybe that's why I'm getting that error, or there is a okay, yeah, here you see it shows your current RAM is 1.9G, used 167 free, and then your storage also, it's a 5 GB, 3.46 is used, and the balance is 5.2. So you can see, right, it's a small computer, and yeah, that's what all about this thing. So the agents don't, I mean, we are using it for coding agents, but this architecture we have developed, which a lot of people also, companies nowadays have that as well, is can be used for other things as well. So the data doesn't, I mean, the agent doesn't access your local laptop you're using, or it, even if it's a server, it doesn't use the shared server, and it sits in your own server. That's it. Okay, thank you.